My aim used to be horrible. Here are the receipts.
Are you kidding me?
The boy has no skills.
But despite what you might think, I didn't improve my aim by focusing on what every YouTube video out there tells you to do.
Use my settings and practice in the firing range.
And after following my own game plan, my aim now looks like this. And now I get comments on my videos accusing me of hacking. But what they don't know is the right type of practice was all it took. And it's all thanks to these 5 drills I'm going to be sharing with you in this video. So without further ado, my name is AlphaDru, let's get into it. Since my COD 5 days, I had always thought the only trick to aiming was working on active aiming. And if you don't know what that means, it's basically just the type of aiming that involves controlling recoil and tracking where your moving target is going. But what I focused on instead that changed the game for me was something called passive aiming. And it's basically making sure your crosshairs are positioned to be ready to fight. And this tip, although you can use it in drills, it's more about being disciplined and making sure a good habit becomes second nature. And another term used for this is crosshair placement. And the best way I can teach this to you is showing you what bad crosshair placement is first. One way to tell if you have a good or a bad teammate is to look at their crosshair placement when you're spectating them. Are they looking at the floor when they run forward, or are they looking straight ahead? Of all metas that this game has had in the past, this has never had more importance. With it being an SMG meta right now, the time to kill is really quick, and some fights are decided by a split second. And the time you take to center your aim onto the opponent can be what sends you back to the lobby. Now, let's look at how we can practice this. You're going to want to start by getting right behind this dummy and practice strafing from target to target and aim for the middle as closely as you can. And once you have this down, we're ready to move into the building. And this is where it gets a bit difficult if you're on controller, because with the targets, you had some aim assist. So keep that in mind if you don't get this down right away. First, we want to focus on specific windows. You're going to want to stray from side to side and make sure your crosshairs stay as centered as possible. Once you have this down, stand in the middle of both windows and rotate from one window to the next. And now we're ready for the next tip.
Nice.
Now this next tip is a bit controversial, but I noticed it significantly increased my accuracy, and it has to do with concentration and your eyes. When you're shooting a real gun, you're taught to focus on the iron sights or reticles and keep your sights on the target. But the keyword there is real. You aren't jumping around, running, sliding, or aiming at people tap strafing. So what I encourage you to do is to focus on the target itself rather than the reticle, and I'll tell you why.
Pay attention.
The human eye is designed to blur out everything it isn't focused on and gather as much detail on the object it is focusing on. So in this case here, I use the sights and reticles as a guide, but once I get locked onto the target, I shift my focus to the actual target itself. And once I started doing this, mid-ranged fights became a lot easier. Now let's move on to in-game drills while keeping in mind passive aiming. If you're having a hard time making sure your sights are set to head and chest level, a little hack I used was looking at a teammate and aiming at them as if they were an enemy, and then moving my sights onto a door where somebody would be. And this works whether you're entering a building or holding one. Now that we've practiced these 4 drills, I want to cover something I call aim correction. And this requires a separate skill you might know as snapping. But don't worry about snapping, it's very easy to practice. And the way you practice this is similar to the first 2 drills, because you're going to be going back and forth from one point to another. But in this case here, it could be something as simple as the corner of a door to the edge of a supply bin. Now, where the aim correction comes into play is when you're tracking a target and they change direction to avoid bullets. And an example would be an Octane, Pathfinder, or Bangalore using their speed to throw off your aim, or even someone tap strafing. Luckily for us, the new firing range helps us practice that a lot more efficiently, and here's how you do it. Make sure to go to your firing range settings and set your dummies to strafe random. This makes their movement unpredictable and allows for you to make those micro adjustments, which ultimately prepares you for real in-game situations. And if you want to take your gameplay to the next level, be sure to watch this video.